Hey yo guys, what's good? I'm joined with Sayf here, previously of Team Liquid, I guess at this point. Uh, he's part of the EMEA scene. Obviously, you guys know him. He carried the Liquid team throughout all of VCT. I feel like last year, and honestly, like, bro, I'm gonna keep it real. Like, I wasn't very hopeful of Liquid, especially watching. I was initially super hopeful. Like when you guys announced the roster, I was like, this is the best team in EMEA. I actually thought you guys would be better than Fnatic when I first saw your team. But then when I saw you guys play at lock-in, it looked so disjointed. And I was very worried, especially when it continued to happen for like the first couple weeks of the regular season. Um, I guess I'm just going to like throw it to you right away and just be like, what did you feel about your first season of VCT? Like, how did it go? Did you think you guys lived up to the expectations that you set at the start of the season?
I think obviously, like if you're gonna make a in quotation super team, then we probably didn't live up to those expectations, so to speak. But I think it was a lot of learning for all of us in the team. I think sure, like we all saw some cool names on paper. We said, oh, this is looking great and things like that. And I think we all realized kind of quickly that we don't know anything about each other. And this was like in a period where Valorant, at least in EMEA, was like you play with people you already know and you recognize each other's play styles. So obviously, like coming in from mech and then the different cultures between us and like learning about new people and how to interact with new people, I think it was a lot for us. But we did do the best we could with what we had. I think we learned to respect each other. We learned to work as a unit, and it took some time for us to do it. Obviously, we peaked in the EMEA season, but I think we did better than what we could have. Like
Yeah.
if you had a projection thing, like you would have expected it to kind of falter after what people believed, after what we did in lock-in, obviously. But we actually exceeded that because we all wanted to be better. We wanted to be friends. We wanted to hash it out instead of just like call it quits. And I think we did a good job at that, at least.
Who do you think was like the driver of that within the team? Like, because I mean, I know like Eamon and stuff on the team, and obviously you guys have a great coaching staff. Like, what was that like working with those guys and like the veteran presence coming from above the team itself?
I mean, our performance coach was a big part of it, I guess, to help us like mesh with each other. Because in the beginning we didn't have him. We didn't have someone that like kind of put us together. He came a little bit later on when the actual season started, was after lock-in and everything, and he started working on like team building and things like this and just working together. I'm gonna say it wasn't a lot of like staff work that actually made us like mesh well together. I think it's just putting a foot forward from everyone. I think Redguard did a great job at like accepting people for how they were. He really opened up as a person and like just tried to bring all the personalities together, and he was like, okay, I'm gonna accept you for who you are, and we're gonna fuck with each other. And I think props to him actually, because like he made me feel like I belonged with him. Even though it felt like it was a little iffy in the start, I feel like he was amazing, and obviously everyone else did a great job. Like Yumpy's. He's a golden retriever, and Nats is just Nats, and like it's good people. It's good people, and I think that's why we could hash it out of it. It's good people to play with.
Yeah, I felt like the vibes on your guys' team had to be like pretty good, right? Because I know like Yampi and Redgar. I mean, Solkis has great vibes as well. I've talked to you a lot. You have really good vibes, other than that one rank clip that you.
Woohoo!
That shit was so
Happens,
funny, dude.
happens, happens.
Dude, I honestly respect it. Like Loki, everyone feels it inside. It's just no one does it.
Yeah.
I've done it before, so um, yeah, I definitely feel like the vibe's really good. So, what do you feel like was wrong with that Team Liquid squad? I guess like because you were at one point the only team to have beaten Fnatic all year up until Champions, and I remember we were sitting there in the green room in VCT Americas watching that, and we couldn't believe that shit. Like honestly, it was blowing my mind. You guys were putting them down like map after map after map. And to see what happened at like Champions and to an extent Tokyo, like I thought the ideas were there in Tokyo. Maybe just some unlucky matchups. What do you feel like happened that kind of turned the ship in the wrong direction?
I think I can't really put my finger on it because I don't know where we initially went wrong. I felt like in EMEA at least, we were like so in sync with each other. Everyone understood each other. We had been living with each other for a long time. We've been sharing apartments with each other, and we had like this like cohesiveness as a unit. And uh, I don't know if it was like changing strats or changing comms. I just feel like on the international stage, it was just harder to hear each other and like make plans with each other because it was different from playing like in the regionals. Obviously, it was different. It was different vibe. You got the admins around you, different admins, and the sound is different. You've got a crowd, and then we're like, wait, we have experience playing in the Coliseum for like 6 weeks or whatever it was, 9 weeks, doesn't really matter. But we have no experience here. And obviously, I feel like we're the kind of team that takes a little longer to adapt than most teams. And that kind of screwed us over a lot. But I do think we fell off a bit in our cohesiveness together as a troop, and it's not really anyone to blame, or like you can't pinpoint something specific. It's just circumstance after circumstance that led to bad circumstances.
Yeah. Do you think you got unlucky with the groups in Champions? Like, do you think Navi was a bad matchup because of like the regional aspect? And then obviously Loud was like a sleeper. Like low key, they looked really damn good throughout that event.
I think definitely unlucky to some extent. Obviously, I'm never gonna complain before. I mean, if a group is released, I'm not gonna go on Twitter and be like, "Hey,
Yeah, of
yo, this is the
course.
group of
Of
death," because
course.
that's kind of like. But obviously, yeah, a little unlucky just because the first matchup against Navi is always going to be like, we know what they're doing, they know what we're doing, because we played each other 1,000 times.
Yeah.
We also practice each other a lot. So, like,
Also,
knowing
the
that,
brothers are coaches, which is like absolutely ridiculous.
exactly, it just becomes a kind of a fiesta, because, like, we know everything about each other. What is there to do? There is no, like, surprise factor or something. It's just going to be edging it out. And we did edge it out against them. It was like round, 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 round. We were passing rounds between each other. And that's unfortunate. Obviously, we ended up losing that. But Loud, obviously, sleeper. Like they are insane. There's nothing to take away from them. They've always been insane. But what is it? Recency bias, and people are like, oh, okay, this recent result means X, Y, Z, which is most of the time not true. So yeah, people were sleeping out loud. I just feel like we were just unfortunate at champions, and obviously it's easy to say unfortunate, but there shouldn't be any excuses. Yeah.
No, I know that feeling, right? As like a competitor when you feel like you just couldn't get any momentum. Like the initial matchup being like a regional matchup, which you're so unlucky because the only reason why that could even happen is the fact that Fnatic gifted that extra slot. like like all the other regions wouldn't even have to deal with that, right? But you were very unlucky in the fact that Fnatic gifted Navi the opportunity to even be there, and that seemed like a really bad matchup for you guys at that time. I guess my next question would be like, how did you feel about playing like the NA teams then at Tokyo? Because those were the two teams that gave you trouble in Tokyo.
I don't know. I didn't feel like the NA teams were like you know how this feeling like unbeatable, like oh my god, they're
Yeah.
really, really, really strong. I felt like we definitely could beat them. Like for instance against NRG, I felt like we had the edge. I don't know how we lose a 12-7 lead. That's that's again unfortunate circumstance. But yeah, obviously like I don't think the matchups were that bad for us against other regions. I felt like we paired up well against at least NRG, so to speak, which is the one we played against. EG a little harder obviously because they play some interesting comps on Fracture, and we never got to just though they're good drillers. Like they have good drill runs. Like they exec pretty good, and obviously it's something new to us. So I'd say EG was a hard matchup for us, but NRG and I would assume other NA teams that play similarly are just fine.
Yeah, I remember watching that NRG game thinking like, oh, dude, Liquid just got so unlucky not to win this series. Obviously, I have like NA bias to an extent with the NRG boys, but I remember watching that Haven game, and yeah, that was
Painful.
probably heartbreaking for you guys, I'm sure,
It was painful.
with no doubt, like no doubt. And I guess going into these, like looking back, the years over, how do you feel about like the roles you were put in and like what you like doing and just your experience as like a player in the server, I guess, for this first year? Did you enjoy playing like initiator in certain times? Like, is that something you'd want to do again, or are you going to go back to duelist? Because in the regular season, dude, you were a goat. Like you were literally right there with Alfier. I'm looking at the stats right now, like 1.23 rating, 249 damage per round, 1.34 KD. You were up there. You were way, way up there on the leaderboard statistically. So why the initiators, and what changed internally?
I think we had a lot of comps that we wanted to play that I personally felt like I should be on something else in these comps because I'm not fully comfortable in playing. For instance, we had this neon comp on Fracture, and I was like, the initiators with it didn't mesh with what I was thinking about. I was like, okay, let's let Yumpy do it, for instance, because I know Yumpy's just as capable, obviously. And just in terms of role, I think people are sleeper on me on Flex because that is legit my role prior to doing anything on Duelist. Like, you
Yeah.
know, been playing it for the longest time. Same thing for Sentinel. Like, I have over 1,000 rounds on Cypher. I played it for the longest time. And just people have, like I said, they think about the recent thing and they're like, okay, this is what this person does, which is not true. I'm sad, obviously, that I got to play Breach. I wanted to test the waters a little bit because I'm not actually a Breach player. I play Sky KO, I play Viper, but I don't actually like. I've never set waters with Breach. I think in terms of roles, I am definitely looking back at going back to more supportive role. Whatever character that is, it wouldn't really matter. I think just in terms of why Duelist was good for me is because I felt like I understood what I needed from my teammates. I understood that this is the space I take, and I was more like imagining in my head like what zones I need to take and how to take them, and being able to visualize that really helps you as a duelist, and I think it gives you an edge over others if you can visualize how to take these zones. But I also feel like there's so much talent in EU because I'm not young, bro. I'm sure. I mean, I'm not
You're pretty
saying
young, dude. You're
yeah,
pretty young.
I'm pretty young, yeah, in that terms, but I'm pretty old in terms of the talent pool that's available. And obviously, in my head, I would much rather teach people how to do it and then be able to give them the best support so they can exceed me in the future. And that's kind of like what I'm envisioning right now is that I don't need to be a duelist. I can empower people in other ways, and I enjoy. It makes me have fun playing. Like I don't genuinely have
Yeah.
fun being the duelist. I'm gonna go in and stuff. It's fun if I get to empower someone else and tell them you did a great fucking job. This is how you do it, and I'm gonna keep supporting you. It makes me have fun. I'm accomplished when they're accomplished, basically, and it feels good. So yeah, I'm looking at going back to that role at least.
Dude, that's awesome. Like that's honestly like such a good sign for a player, and I feel like that mindset is so important for duelists. And I feel like you're doing that in like your peak form as a duelist as well. Like I said, I mean, you were in really really good form. So the fact that you're willing to go into a more supportive role, kind of set up the next gen, even though you're only 22, right? Am I
Yeah, I'm
right with that?
pretty young. I'm pretty
Yeah,
young,
you're
but
pretty
hey,
young. Like
in
you're making
esports,
yourself sound like a boomer. Like just because you got a beard, man, you
no,
got
but in esports, like in your 20s in esports is like getting there. You're getting there.
yeah.
Like yeah.
Going into what you just said, I guess a little bit, like you mentioned like the leadership role. Who would you say like provided that to you throughout your career? Like going back to like the old bonk
Ooh.
days into NIP, into Guild, into now currently in Team Liquid. Like, how did your previous teammates help you build as like a person, and like where did you learn all of these experiences that
I
formed
feel
you?
like Bonker was
I
the
knew you'd say
absolute
that.
goat of goats. I have never in my life played with a better teammate than Bonker himself. I like hands down, I don't give any fucks what anyone says about how many people he kills. That man was legit the pinnacle of how a teammate should act, how a teammate should be. He was always on time. He gave the greatest util. He always cheered people up. He always came with good tactics. He never said anything bad about someone like during a round or something like that. He never said you fucked up. He would always show you a different way of doing something. He would always help you understand situations, and he never, ever, ever shuts you down for an idea. He never did that. He always played with your ideas, and he empowered you. And being able to empower your teammates in that way, I don't find that a lot in other people. Like that guy, obviously he won back-to-back Worlds and Paladins, which is a completely different game, but he has that factor in him. And obviously, I learned most of the like about the game from him and Leo as well. Like when we were in Bonk, I remember Leo, he looked at Bunker to try to understand situations because he didn't know either. I didn't know either. We both knew, but we're like, okay, Bunker, what are we supposed to do? And he gave us this good image of the game that we still follow to this very day. And I'm not sure how it works in Fnatic for Leo, but when I play ranked with him, I still visualize it the same way as him. So when all the rosters went apart and the players went different ways, it was like hard for us to like play with other players because we had this kind of ingrained in us from the bonk days that this is how you play, this is how you condition, this is how you take this and play with the enemy. And we're like, holy shit. And to this very day, everything that Bonker said from the beginning, I feel like a lot of teams still do.
Damn.
Yeah,
So he was like innovating. He was ahead of his time.
hey, he was the first guy to say, let's play Viper on split and put the bubble in mid. and that was in
Yeah.
like beta. That he was that was in like a long time ago, legit. So yeah, he's insane.
That's crazy. I had a feeling that you would say him, and I was kind of like hoping you would say him. And the reason why I had a feeling is because I've seen. I don't know if you've been keeping an eye on this Oxygen team, Oxygen Esports that he's coaching right now. Do
Yeah,
you
yeah,
watch them at all?
yeah. I do
Or,
just because Bunker's there.
yeah. Did you get to scrim against them when you were here in NA?
Yes, we did scrim
They're
against them.
animals, right?
Yeah.
They're actually insane. Like he is running a daycare over there with like 16-year-olds, and he has them playing like pretty smart. And I don't know how he does it. Like I actually don't know how he does it. The fact that they play pretty disciplined, and I know that that has to be coming from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Like Mitch wasn't previously in-game leading complexity, and he now is like looking like a great IGL for super young talents within the scene, like Scuba, Verno, Redux. Like these guys are really young, and then they had their assistant coach step in.
Playing, yeah, exactly. That's even
Yeah,
more insane, and they were still playing fine with that. And I
dude,
think Bunker had a lot to put in there. I'm gonna be honest.
I, I I always had a feeling, but like I haven't really had the insight behind like how he is as a head coach, other than like the interviews and stuff the team has done for challengers in NA. But man, that team is very impressive, and I think like if there's anyone that's probably going to be a VCT level coach, it would be him, unless he
it's
wants to stay in this scenario.
it's 100% him. And I generally I've been telling him I've been telling him, Bunker, please come to VCT. Please coach in the franchise. Bro, if you were to come in my team in IGL, I would not mind. I really like just want you to be around us. And it's really up to him what he does, but I think he definitely has it in him.
Dude, that's so sick. That's actually that's very high praise. That's awesome that you gave that to him, because like not a lot of like leaders and coaches get that kind of respect from their players. So it definitely shows that he had a lot of impact, probably like in and out of the server.
100%.
What are your early thoughts on like Oxygen then right now in challengers? Do you think they're like favorites to win in NA based on what you've seen?
I'm not sure. I mean, if they don't play with their assistant coach, maybe. But
Yeah.
obviously, yeah, I think it's hard to say with Valorant. I think is the best answer because I never know who wins in this game, man. It's always like it's so random sometimes. I'm like, who's better, you know? What? Sometimes it feels so like close, and some like one team would win one day, and then the next day they just completely get smashed, and you're like,
Yeah.
what happened? Like, what is going on? So I could never put my finger and say like, oh, Oxygen is gonna win X, Y, Z, but obviously everyone can be contenders, including me.
So that's super interesting that you said that, because I've heard that a lot actually. When I was coaching 100 Thieves, some of the players were like, "This game is so fucking random. Like, literally, it doesn't matter what we do. It's so random." And hearing that again from a pro player, do you believe in like there's like a lot of variance in the game? Obviously, you can control the variance to an extent, the way like Fnatic does.
Yeah.
But do you believe if like like a top level team plays another top level team, that there's inherent like variance in Valorant currently?
Yeah, I definitely think so, and it's sad to think that way, obviously, because you don't want it to be you don't want the game to be kind of RNG, kind of so to speak, but
Yeah.
it really isn't. And yeah, Fnatic controls these. You need to control it, obviously, control the chaos, control what's happening. Most of the time, solution to like solving randomness is just playing even slower. I'm not even kidding. Like
Yeah.
just playing as slow as you can. Get the info back, go back, get the info again, leave someone, and that's how you control this randomness. Because obviously, you gotta maximize efficiency in these things that you can't control. And I think that
Yeah.
Fnatic does that the best out of any team.
So what
And
do you think?
Lotus is a prime example. Fnatic's
Lotus is
Lotus is a
insane.
prime example of like how you like maximize efficiency in this randomness the game has. They start C, they have the bubble on A all around, they
The
start spam. They're not doing anything on the map. It's just one by one, and then they leave someone, they go back. It's like
and then they react to every single thing you do. Like if they have an
yeah,
inkling that you're playing like 2-3 long A, like they'll immediately pounce on like front B and C and like force the rotate over there, or potentially even pop on the site if they have the right ults to do that, or
yeah.
right information to do that. It's honestly insane to watch them, and they really do minimize the variance. So what do you think of like the other side of the coin when you watch like EDG versus Paper X? Like what's going on there? Like how do these guys do it?
I think there is certain and I think it's cool, by the way. I'll start with that. I think it's really cool that we have different playstyles that have been created. You can approach it like Fnatic, be slow and reactive and whatnot, but you also have this like very overwhelming playstyle that has been created with the Harbor comps, Harbor Brimstone, and Reyna following up on it with that eye. I think they've found like the perfect way to manipulate chaos on one zone. Because obviously no one's starting as five people on one site, and if you manipulate the chaos like Paper X does, for instance, you're gonna have a banger of a game because the people they need to think like this. The enemy has to be like this all the time. And when you
Yeah.
keep that pressure up all the time, you don't even know what your last name is. You're gonna start like you're gonna be so confused as the game is going on. And I think that's really what makes Paper X super super good and hard to play against. It's just you need to have solutions fast and you either give up the site or you fight in the chaos and see what happens.
So I have my theories on this, but like I agree completely. Like that's what people don't understand. You can't prepare for everything in Valorant. Like everyone's like hyping up like, oh, Fnatic has all these protocols, this and that. I'm like, bro, the shit they're gonna see in Champions, they will not have protocols for. They're gonna have to think on the fly, and they're gonna have to think really fast. And that's what happens when you play Paper X, right? Like you've never experienced the Harbor Reyna before in scrims, and if you have, it might be from like a team with way less skill, right?
Yeah.
So like they can't bully you around in these individual fights. Do those changes from your perspective come at like an individual level or like a game plan level? Because what happens if a team just like blindsides you in like the agent pick phase? You know, like what if they just change their comp last second? NRG's been known to do that.
Ooh, I mean, change. I think it's an individual thing. I think because I just think the Paper X players like understand how to play in that chaos. And like if NRG were to change comps, for example, it wouldn't be like you can't change players and how they play essentially, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
can't. I will always be able to predict someone that's done something over a sustained amount of time. So obviously, if NRG changes comps, it's easier to adapt, I would say, to like those kind of players. But if Paper X changes something, they still have the same identity because everyone has an identity, right? And I feel like that comes from individual skill because obviously like most sometimes you see engagements that Paper X takes and they're not supposed to win those engagements and yet they still come out on top for some reason. I'm not sure how. They could be jumping through the harbor wall with a cascade in front of them. They'll still end up killing two and you're like, how? Like how has this happened? You're not even sure. And that has to be individual skill on top of the chaos. I don't think it's any other way because I don't see FNS rushing without harbor wall and killing three
No.
people. I don't see him doing that.
No. So like FNS, like you mentioned Bonkar and FNS, probably like, you know, obviously the less skilled IGLs when compared to teams like Paper X, EDG. Like those teams have very skilled IGLs. Do you think the game is trending in a direction where you need a player like that? Because you just said that you would play with like Bonkar, which, I mean, he's going the other side, right? Do you think there's room for like both of those styles of IGL in how Valorant's trending, or do you think it's going to lean one way or the other?
Ooh, I'm not sure. You mean like it's either super skilled or super smart? Is that what you're?
Yeah, because there's either you have to put a lot of time into like the prep and kind of like the culture within the team, or you sacrifice that at the sake of like having your coach do it and then just listen and then you work on your mechanical skills.
I feel like that's a personal thing. I think if you ask players, they'll answer differently. Because for me personally, like what's important to you as a player? Is it important that you're gonna go in there and you're gonna smash everybody, aim duels, you're gonna have someone that shoots really hard, or is it important for you to build a nice team culture, a team environment that you believe in, and in a way that also empowers your performance in the game? So obviously, if you were to ask me, I'd have someone like Bonker, which I know empowers the players in the team and creates this team environment kind of like EG, like they started off pretty bad in the beginning of the season, going 1-4, and then they win champs. Like obviously, they must have the proper team environment, the proper team structure to be able to do that, even without having the best puzzle pieces on the table. So like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd opt for a team environment. I wouldn't say you need someone super skilled, but many players would answer differently depending on what they like. So.
What did you think about like the fact that EG had like a B team? Do you think that helped a lot? The fact that they could like mimic comps and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think 100,000 zillion% that helps so much. I definitely think like sometimes in practice, good teams go out of their way to try to be like, oh, the enemy we're playing tomorrow is going to be doing this, so we shouldn't be doing this. But in scrims, if you're not playing against a similar comp a lot of times, you're only going to get to see just like a few scenarios, and that's really, really hard. Meanwhile, when you drilled your XX, you'll know what zones the enemy can manipulate if they're playing that same exact comp. But in scrims, when people are forcing you to do something else and you're playing against a different comp or you get to play the comp once, then it's hard to be able to visualize what's actually going to happen in the game unless you have a lot of drill runs. And that's why I say EG is like a drill team because they know how to exec really, really good. Like they know exactly what's gonna happen and where, and it looks so cohesive. And I think their B team, I don't know if they've used them, but obviously, like if they utilize them in that way, it's super, super strong.
They did, yeah. I
Yeah.
talked a lot with them at the after party at Champions, and they were saying like, yeah, we even ran like the Harbor Arena comp. Like we didn't do it very good, so we only did it like once or twice, but like we were running like the Paper X comps against each other, and what they would do is they would watch the VODs of the team they're gonna play, and literally do their execs.
Yeah.
They would just mimic their execs, and they're like pro level players, right? These are players that potentially were VCT level players that just were willing to be on a B team. Like even like BCJ's on this team.
Yeah.
Like Screwface now has trial offers for teams like Leviathan. Like we're getting rumors of that. So like these are really good players that are actually doing this with the main team. And I agree. Like I think if teams have that kind of capability, obviously that's a lot of money to sink into the team.
Yeah.
I'm not stupid here, but when I found that out, I was like, oh, dude, no wonder they look so drilled, so prepped. Like everything is buttoned up so perfectly when I watch this team. I feel like that's a huge factor, and we were like memeing on them for that in NA at first.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering if that's like to do with if it could have looked differently if Riot allowed to have academy teams and things like this, because obviously I think we're not allowed to have B teams or like we're not allowed to have academy teams, or am I tripping? Because I'm pretty sure a lot of orgs like pulled out from the academy things like early on before the franchise hit.
I'm not 100%, but I think they stepped back on that like recently, like in the last like month or two.
Okay, because I think that's definitely something that orgs should be looking at 100,000%. Because
Yeah.
I think it's just such a good addition, like in terms of practice and the performance, just helps a lot.
Look, man, maybe over in EMEA, but we ain't got no money over here right now. So.
That's true. Hey, you guys still make like that. All I'm saying is, you guys make at least. I mean, still a lot more than any European player would do in our region. I'll say that. Like even with the deductions, we're
Yeah.
struggling out here, man. But we're happy.
Yeah, you're not wrong, dude. There's a lot of like spoiled pros out here. Like man,
I would
I grew up
never
in
dare to say that, but I do think it is slightly spoiled to be like, I make more than like normal human beings to play video
Yeah.
games. But I'll say no because like
yeah.
it's like okay,
So
you know.
I think like last year there was a lot of rumors that you had offers for NA teams, right? In VCT, there was rumors that I think I remember.
There was talks. There was never like a concrete offer. There was just a question, like
Yeah.
oh. And there was interest, I think is the better word to say. There was interest.
Yeah. On Flynn's spreadsheet right now, it has you like pinned on Vitality, and you don't need to like confirm or deny that. But like, how many teams were out there looking at Sayf in this offseason? Because it was announced pretty quickly that you wouldn't be on the Team Liquid roster, which honestly shocked a lot of like the people that are in my circles, because I thought you were one of the true staying pieces in that team.
I thought so as well. Not
Yeah, so is that like a little bit deflating for you, because Team Liquid is a really big org. They have awesome facilities in Amsterdam, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not in Utrecht. It's in Netherlands, at
Utrecht,
least, so
yeah,
you
yeah.
were close.
Oh,
But
close,
obviously, like I had a few teams. I think I had less teams than expected, I guess, because obviously you have to buy me out in that sense, and there's like a whole process of things, and not a lot of people want to invest in the current market of the world and
Sure.
and things like that. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't a lot of people, to be fair, and obviously I was just as surprised. I think a lot of orgs weren't even prepared that I would be available, just because of how like they had different plans because of how surprising it is that I'm not on the team,
Yeah.
kind of. And yeah, so I had like four orgs, in the franchise, and obviously I think that's a lot.
That's great, man. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, but it's also like what kind of players do you want to play with and things like this. It's obviously hard to switch, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't a little amount, but it was a fair amount. It's just hard. It's always hard to change. I hate
Yeah.
change. Yeah.
No, I'm sure. I mean, so I've been to Sweden quite a bit. I love Sweden. Do you live in Stockholm?
Yeah, I live in Stockholm.
Stockholm, yeah. Dude, like I remember one of my first times I left the States. I was there, and I wasn't even thinking, and I walked up to like a kid, and I was like, "Do you know where like the metro is?" And he just spoke like perfect English, and I was like, "What the so, like, your English is perfect. People probably don't even recognize the fact that you're Swedish. Would you ever play on a Swedish team? Like, does that interest you at all? Is that something?
1,000%.
Yeah.
I mean, we were like me and the boys. I mean, the Swedish boys in Valorant scene are like tightly knit. We all talk to each other and like joke around and stuff like that. It would be me, Leo, Sipan, Bunker, and whoever's left Swedish that
Bro, you
hasn't
guys
left
could
it.
make a fucking insane team.
Yeah, I felt that as well, bro. But the franchise thing kind of hit, and obviously, like, I think all of us would love to play in a Swedish team. It's just a different vibe. It's just a completely different vibe. It's just
Be
Swedes with
fun.
Swedes. Yeah, it's
No?
just fun. I say, but yeah, that's
How do I say it? What did I say? I don't even know what I said. We used to
I
say shit in
fy
Swedish all the
fan.
time.
You
Yeah.
say just fy fan or fan. I mean, it's the same thing. But
Uh,
yeah, obviously Swedish team. I mean, speaking in your mother tongue, it's always gonna be a different vibe. It's just so much clarity and so much like you can talk so much, and everyone would just understand everything exactly. I don't feel the same way in English. I feel like people are like, oh, what does he actually mean? And it's like it's weird. But if you speak the same language, that's fucking great. Yeah.
Dude, that's so sick. Like, so what is Valorant like in Sweden? Because when I was playing Counter Strike, like it was so big. Like the community that supported Counter Strike in Sweden was outrageous. It was one of the first times I started getting like recognized places.
Yeah.
Whereas like that never happened in North America. So like, is Valorant big in Sweden right now?
Definitely not. I
No.
think no, definitely not. I think more casual people are into Valorant and they're not so invested in, for instance, esports and things like this. I think it's just CS has such a strong like culture, like just rooted into society. Like you ask anyone, any man, woman, old man, someone in a wheelchair, they're always, oh yeah, I know Counter Strike. Yeah, man, I used to play when I was a kid. Like okay, cool. Like everyone does that. So yeah, obviously Valorant has no space to like push CS away from something so ingrained into people's minds. And even if you tell them, they have this little CS thing, oh, Valorant sucks. And obviously, if the CS people think Valorant sucks, then it'll just follow along. And then the normies will be like, oh, no, that game, I'm never going to touch it. CS forever. And he's like Silver 2 in CS. And I'm like, okay, bro. You're like legit.
No,
So,
you guys have like that team that's like 70 years old in Sweden. I remember I saw like a news story about this, like some boomers
oh
and
yeah,
like
yeah. I don't remember what their names was, but it's like legit boom. Like yeah, some like
yeah,
they're
legit.
pensioners. Yeah, and they
Yeah.
just practice and play. It's so sick.
Yeah. Dude, it's crazy how big it is over there. What so I'm curious, like I've talked to you a lot now, probably like at Champions and now this. Like only thing I really know about you is that you like snus. I saw you
I love
you're
snus.
back on the snus train. You're
I
so
love
Swedish,
it.
man. You're so Swedish.
I am.
I'm not gonna lie, dude. I'm a huge pussy. Freiburg gave me one time when I was drinking and I threw up and I was
Yeah.
like, never again. That shit is strong.
You gotta be careful. Hey, there's like weak ones, there's strong ones. I take the weakest one because I don't really
Yeah.
care about like how it makes me feel. It's just so culture. It's like I
Yeah.
eat, I gotta have a snus in my mouth. I drink, I gotta have a snus in my mouth. I play
Yeah.
video games, gotta have a snus. It's just so ingrained in my mind that I have to have it, and like every Swedish person feels the same. It's just so like Swedish of you to like have this snus ready. And you know what? You want to know why you feel bad? You actually only feel bad the first time, and that's because it's actually just a toxin for a plant that kills insects. And when you first take a snooze, you actually feel the effects an insect would feel as it gets like poisoned by the nicotine in it. And obviously, like once you take it once, it'll never feel that bad again. It's just the first time you do it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, like when Riot came down on Angel at Champions for doing snus, I almost couldn't believe it because coming from Counter Strike, man, I watched people put those things in their lips
Yeah.
like it was nothing, like it was candy, right? Like it would happen all the time. I didn't think anything of it. Like it was fine. It's fine in the community. It's honestly socially acceptable in all of those countries over there. Like
Yeah.
especially Sweden. Like everyone does it. My neighbor down the street does it. He's from
Yeah.
Sweden, Fifflerin.
I,
So
I,
like it's everywhere.
Yeah. No, it's super confusing because they got mad at me as well for having snus, and obviously I had to have my mouth checked, which is very
What?
interesting. Yes, I had to like pull up my lip to show him I didn't have a snus inside, because I told him like before I went on stage, I was like, hey buddy, like about the snus, like can I just put it in my mouth before I walk out and then I take it out once the game is over? He's like, no. I'm like, okay, I'll put my snus back. He says, if you do it, you'll get disqualified. And I
God
said,
damn.
okay, so I'm gonna get disqualified. I have this snooze. I go back, I put the snooze away. I'm kind of agitated because, like,
Yeah.
you're telling me, like, years and years upon years of, like, doing this. You're just telling me over 1 hour to stop. Like,
Yeah.
just don't do it. And that's hard. Whatever. I put the snooze away. I took it out of my mouth. I had to go back, and then he tells me again, like, are you sure you don't have it in? I'm like, I swear to God, I don't have it in. He says, open your mouth. I open my
No
mouth.
way,
There's
dude.
nothing there. He's like, okay. But the funny thing is, this is where I got quite upset because he said you get disqualified if you have it, right? And then
Yeah.
Angel has it in his mouth and they lose a timeout. And I'm like, you communicated to me that because I would take the timeout
Yeah,
loss.
bro, we're playing with no timeouts.
Yeah, bro, I don't give a fuck, dude. I'll take that timeout loss, right? So let me put it in there, man. It's like, yeah, obviously, if he has to communicate like something concrete, he can't tell me I'm gonna get DQ'd, then give the guy a fucking timeout loss, man. That's not
That-
cool, man. No,
That's hilarious,
no.
dude. No, I know all. I know so many Swedes that feel that same exact way. How do you
Yeah.
feel about Angel, by the way? Like, random question, because like people in NA meme on this guy all the time. They don't know him from Counter Strike like I do. They don't know who he is as like a person and like his experiences. I give him the benefit of the doubt more than others. I think I could see what he's going for in a lot of the scenarios. Like, how do you think about how like Navi conducts their team with like the comp changes and his aggro plays?
I think he has very good ideas and intentions. I think he controls that team a lot better than what people think. Like you can tell from the way Navi play that he's set out a plan for them. If anyone steps across what he deems appropriate, he'll discipline you. I think he just has a very strong like leadership role. Obviously, I feel like people like underestimate his presence in that team a lot. So, oh, he's just TPing in and dying. It's like no, he's actually doing a lot for that team, as do many other players that like people just hop over. They're like, oh, this guy's trolling when he's actually not. They contribute a lot. And with Angel, I just feel like he has the personality for it and he has the right people for it as well. Like those people specifically work very well with him. It's a good fit, and you could tell from FPX till now. I mean, they've been together for the longest time. I wouldn't change anything with that team. I think Angel gives them a lot, and I wouldn't change IGL either. So I mean,
There you have it. Like, honestly, I feel like every pro that I talk to says that kind of stuff about Navi. Whereas, like, you know, the fucking meme accounts and all these fucking dumb fucks all over, like,
yeah.
Twitter, they're always memeing on Angel, man. It is fun. I'm not gonna lie. It's fun as fuck to meme on Angel.
Yeah.
And he takes it really, like, a funny way because he's just, like, a funny dude. But, yeah, I don't want it to, like, harm his career, you know? Like, I still think he has so much value in him. And I think he's actually way more skilled than what people give him credit for when I watch him play.
Yeah, I think he has 4 demons on the team.
For
To be
he
fair,
does.
I mean, he has 4 demons on the team, but he shoots hard as well. I'll tell you that. I've been firsthand. I'm coming up Ascension Market. My guy's standing boat, all right? His boathouse sitting there. I come up Market. I hear, "Buh!" I'm like, oh shit, my head is gone. What's happened? It's Angel standing there as Omen, and I'm just sat like, how did he one-tap me, this guy, bro? He's like 34. What's happening? he's still got it. I'll tell you, he still fucking got it, that guy. So
that's hilarious,
yeah.
Dude. So I guess my like last question for you, I want to like know a little bit about you. Like, what are your hobbies like outside of Valorant? You're sitting on an Overwatch chair, which is right.
I do not play Overwatch. It is
that's
a diva
chair. Yeah, yeah.
But I do not play Overwatch. I just thought it was cute because my cat reminded me of my cat for some reason. I don't know. Anyways, no, hobbies. I mean, I like programming. I went to uni for a month, and then I dropped out. I went to game dev. I was doing game development at Stockholm University. We were just developing games. I guess it was pretty fun. Like legit, the first week of uni, we had to make a full game in a week. It was sick. It was really fun. Like I like generally like game development and programming. It feels at home. It's kind of it feels home for me. So that's what I do on my free time.
That is fucking awesome, and that is like the area that I want to like self-teach myself. I took some classes in college, but I want to go back into it. I know there's so many opportunities to like shape the landscape, right? The landscape that we're in currently, gaming, esports. If you have knowledge in that field, like you will be here forever, right? Like that is such an important thing to study. Would you have interest in like pursuing that after your pro days?
100,000%. That's kind of my goal. Like essentially, I wanna end up like either working as a dev here for Riot. Who the hell knows? Like I would not mind like working on Valorant, for instance, because I know like from experience of actually playing it and then giving that back to the dev team, I think it would help a lot in terms of how the game shapes itself. I mean, that experience is gold though.
Dude, hell yeah, shoot your shot, King.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I mean,
I was actually just talking to a dev like 2 days ago. And he said it's very hard to get engineers and people like that to work on the game because they're competing against all these top tech companies like Amazon, Facebook, Twitter. They're like all these people are competing for these engineers. And in addition to that, you need people that are passionate and know about esports and gaming.
Yeah.
And that cross section is very difficult to find. So I just want to say, like, that is, you definitely got your head on right going that direction. Like, this has been super cool. Thank you so much.
Thanks. It was fun for me as well. Thank you.
Dude, plug all of your shit right now. Go.
Wait, oh, my ads?
Yeah, where are you
Oh
at?
shit. I don't know how to pronounce it. At DisaJuf on Twitter, twitch.tv/SafeDJ. Don't forget, I don't use any other platforms, but do find me on Twitch, SafeDJ, guys. SafeDJ. Spin that shit. Thank you.
Hell yeah. Thanks, brother.